supply chain ransomware protection. That's me. As you can see, also my email address in case you want to reach out and ask me some questions afterwards. I'm a former enterprise Java developer who turned enterprise Java architect and then eventually started getting more interested into cloud security and cloud security CSPM solutions in total. And that's a topic I'm very passionate about. I'm talking to you today, also from my past experience as a developer, and also because it's a topic which affects us in our everyday life because of these pretty ugly ransomware attacks becoming more and more common, getting more traction. So I think even if you're not in IT, I think it really helps to have a little bit of knowledge around this really ugly topic, which impacts our everyday life in the meantime. So I split up basically my talk today into 4 distinct sections. First of all, I want to give you some overview what exactly is ransomware and why is it such an ugly topic. Then I'm proceeding to explain to you a little bit how CSPM, so Cloud Security Posture Management, a solution can help you, and how vulnerability management, which definitely is part of the solution against ransomware attacks, how this can help you, how AWS SecurityHub fits into the picture, because AWS SecurityHub is a great service that you can use to improve your cloud security posture, but also your vulnerability management, of course. But then, of course, AWS SecurityHub also has some limitations, so I also want to talk a little bit about what exactly you cannot achieve or shouldn't try to achieve with AWS SecurityHub. And then finally, and last but not least, we provide some services, of course. As a huge company, we encompass pretty much all the aspects around cybersecurity. So I think we can also help you there. And a specific highlight in this, our services for you section, is about what we can also do in case all the prevention, preparation against ransomware attacks has gone wrong, what exactly we can achieve in this worst case scenario. Okay, so first topic, impact of ransomware. As you maybe already know from the press, so the amount of ransomware attacks which are happening are staggering, and the tendency is also that these kind of attacks are increasing. You can follow this in the press quite a lot. That's a lot of the reason therefore is because these ransomware attacks are mainly directed towards companies in EU and US, and obviously it's because these attackers follow the money. So due to this positive payment behavior, we can assume there's going to be an increasing amount of these attacks happening in the future. And yeah, one topic which is pretty important is that ransomware attacks don't necessarily happen in the cloud, so it's not only a cloud security topic, but it's also happening a lot because the main driver behind these ransomware attacks still is up-to-date email phishing attacks. So it's not so easy to protect against ransomware attacks, but definitely in this talk, I'm focusing more on the cloud security posture management side and more on the side of the vulnerability management. Yeah, very important to understand also, these ransomware attacks are not conducted by some kind of amateurs. These are, you can assume, so-called advanced persistence threats. So these are huge organizations with quite some funding available, with resources, who are organized professionally, who are driving these attacks. And what's also kind of shocking is how fast they are after some CV, some vulnerability is available or has been described, has been published, how fast they are with coming up with an exploit for the CV. So just on my way here today, I read an article which explained that ChatGPT was able to produce with an incredible success rate of 85%. So given some description for a CV, ChatGPT was able to produce an exploit for ransomware or for an attack in general. So coming to the next topic, after I hope I could convey the idea why exactly ransomware attacks are so difficult to handle and why they are getting more widespread, So what we can do, of course, with AWS SecurityHub, CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management System, we can try to tackle or try to improve the attack surface that the cloud account itself exposes. So AWS SecurityHub, CSPM, does a really excellent job of computing a cloud score so that we better understand, okay, what exactly are our vulnerabilities? Are our EC2 instances exposed to the internet, or are they not exposed? What is our overall state, so that we can derive some actions there. But of course, this doesn't necessarily or directly help us with the second aspect, which SecurityHub covers, namely the vulnerabilities. Yeah? So AWS SecurityHub also allows us to look into vulnerabilities, which are typically the entry point for all sorts of attacks, including ransomware attacks. And of course, with AWS SecurityHub, you can figure out what your vulnerabilities are, but only on a very coarse-grained level. So for example, you can figure out, okay, is my EC2 instance affected by a vulnerability, and if yes, which one? But maybe if I have a vulnerability on the EC2 instance, and there is some more process running in my application stack, like Docker or some kind of a Java application server, maybe I don't see that vulnerability too. But this would be really relevant because this affects my attack surface, something that an attacker could exploit to launch a ransomware attack. Of course, AWS and the adjacent services that you can integrate into SecurityHub are really powerful services that you can also use to scan your workloads. For example, in this case, we could also scan our ECR, so our Elastic Container Registry, to scan images for vulnerabilities and report those to SecurityHub, so you would see more findings. And of course, in case we had a native CI/CD pipeline within AWS, we could also integrate the findings at a very early stage. While the image is being built or our source code is being compiled, we could integrate that to SecurityHub. So in order to have a single glass of pane within SecurityHub, which could inform us of what vulnerabilities we currently have, so how our attack surface is built up, basically. Okay, but then what are the limitations exactly of AWS SecurityHub? Well, obviously, SecurityHub as a CSPM system focuses on the cloud account, right? So this means especially that we do not really see, in case the developers are using a CI/CD pipeline outside of AWS SecurityHub or of AWS, which might be hosted on GitHub or somewhere else, we are not able to inform the developers at a very early stage of the vulnerabilities that they are adding with their source code. And this, of course, is very important because it will enable security a lot if we enable the developers to be really aware of the vulnerabilities they are adding to their source code. And of course, the other topic is where AWS SecurityHub does not really help us is we don't only need to shift security left to the developers, but we also need to integrate and have a corporate-wide overview of what our vulnerabilities are. So what applications come with what set of vulnerabilities or SBOMs, or software bill of materials, and how can I integrate this view of all my SBOMs, which contain all the relevant information for vulnerabilities like CVEs, which come with dependencies, or like the up-to-dateness of a vulnerability or of a dependency, better to say, or how exactly the identities of this dependency and what license I have. So I want to have, as a company, not only to know, okay, at runtime, what are my vulnerabilities in the cloud, but I also want to know in a company that my development team can tackle vulnerabilities very early in the software delivery lifecycle, and also that I can build some overview over all my SBOMs, over all my dependencies in my software project. So I have a company-wide overview. So if some CV happens, which could be a possible entry point for ransomware attack, that basically I can search for this specific vulnerability and immediately derive in what projects this vulnerability is basically is exposed to. Okay, and then, well, there are various options, so I will not want to use this brief talk here to say, okay, what is the exactly right option, because there are many options how we can handle vulnerabilities, how we can look into S-bombs, how we can generate S-bombs for each and every project, how we can aggregate this for the cloud account, how we can aggregate this company-wide. So I just wrote here some 3 options, and maybe there is one for you in your company which suits best, or which could be used as some kind of a combination to come up with a proper solution for you specifically. So there is a very lightweight solution where you could use, for example, Cyclone DX Tool Center, which is an OWASP project, which is also related with dependency track, in order to generate S-bombs. Of course, also some other open source tooling like SIFT. And with this, you could build, for basically no money at all, your own vulnerability management system. And you could load all your S-bombs that you have in your company into dependency track and have a really low budget solution. Or, like I showed before, you could use AWS Inspector, which in the meantime also has the capabilities to build S-bombs, to also integrate the information contained in those S-bombs into AWS SecurityHub. Or you could add yet another CSPM system, like for example Wiz, in order to send these findings that you have in your cloud to SecurityHub, to have, again, a single glass of pane where all the vulnerabilities show up. So now that I have talked about, okay, what exactly are ransomware attacks, or how urgent is the need to focus on these, and I explained a bit how SecurityHub helps with ransomware attacks, and what else you can do in case SecurityHub alone will not be sufficient for you. I also want to talk a bit about the services we provide. So we provide in my team a bunch of services which help to ameliorate the problems around vulnerability management, like conducting infrastructure as code audits or cloud architecture audits, all kinds related to secure container strategies, and also choosing cloud-native CNAPP applications, to where CSPMs also belong to. And yeah, that's the last slide here I wanted to share with you, because I do not want to go into great detail and just enumerate all the services we provide. But I also wanted to talk a bit, okay, what happens in a really worst case scenario where a ransomware attack is really successful, what can be done there. So after all the prevention did not work out, and it was not possible to manage the vulnerabilities, and if the worst case really happened, what can we really do about this? And in this worst case scenario, yeah, this is basically what we can do. So in order to have some, to avoid sleepless nights, we can decide to move basically really critical, company critical or enterprise critical applications, to provide them with a cold standby disaster recovery platform. So basically it means we would kind of replicate this application to the cloud to run it independently of the current application. And if this application that you want to protect is attacked by a ransomware attack, so you will lose all the data and the business is disrupted, we could just automatically basically switch over to this cold standby disaster recovery platform. So this is like one of the main mechanisms we can use in case that the prevention mechanisms I explained before around vulnerability management have failed. So idea, I hope, is clear with the cold standby cluster. It means we will automatically back up all the data in your application and make sure that this data is basically automatically activated in the scenario where you want to, where you want to fail over to this backup in the cloud. Yeah, so we have here the solution which can, based on this cold standby cluster, which can work really automatically to a very high degree, so that basically your business in the worst case scenario is going to be disrupted for only a very short period of time, yeah, which is the whole idea behind this cold standby cluster. Okay, I think that was it. Do you have any questions? So I was pretty fast, but I hope also it was pretty simple to follow. So if there are any questions from you, I would really love to hear about it. Or otherwise, you can also drop me an email. Yeah.